Russia steps up its assault on occupied Ukrainian territories as civilians from recaptured towns in the Kherson region return home.
Iranian security forces have opened fire on protesters in Zahedan a month after a massacre killed scores of people in the southeastern city. Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro and his ex-president challenger have faced off in their final televised debate ahead of tomorrow's tense vote.
At least 4 people have been killed and 10 wounded after Russian missiles struck several towns near the Zaporizhzhia power plant. Dozens of residential buildings were damaged and power lines cut, leaving thousands without electricity. Russia's defence ministry says its forces have repelled Ukrainian attacks and destroyed 5 ammunition depots in the Kharkiv region and in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic.
In the Kupiansk direction, one enemy reinforced battalion attacked the positions of Russian troops towards Bierstaff. All the attacks were repelled. Over 150 Ukrainian personnel, 1 tank, 5 infantry fighting vehicles, 4 armoured personnel carriers and 9 pickups were eliminated.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia has launched more than 8,000 airstrikes and fired some 4,500 missiles since the war began. Standing beside the wreckage of a downed Iranian drone, he vowed that Putin's attacks on power plants would not break Ukrainian spirits. But according to Zelensky's military, drones have played a key role in helping defending troops destroy Russian missile launchers. This pilot claims they are not bombing but searching and targeting weapons on Russian soil, which he says are attacking our city.
So we fly not only to Russian border, we fly very deep into Russian territory, and because they are shooting from there.
Meanwhile, reclaimed settlements in the Kherson region bear the heavy scars of the war. Many civilians have now returned, but for some, piles of bricks and mortar are all that remain of their former homes.
Marching in Zahedan, Iranians in unity and seemingly without fear, marking 1 month since security forces massacred scores of people in the southeastern city. The camaraderie once again broken up by police gunshots, and protesters have to run for their lives. There are reports that at least 6 people have been killed in the latest protest, including a 12-year-old boy. In a desperate attempt to calm local anger, the provincial authorities have sacked 2 senior officers in their handling of what is now known as Zahedan's Bloody Friday. Security forces have also fired at crowds in Mahabad, another city with a long history of resistance against the regime. There's been renewed deadly violence after 6 weeks of unrest, sparked by the death of Mahsa Amini in police custody. The house of Nancy Pelosi and her husband Paul. It's here a hammer-wielding intruder broke into the San Francisco home and attacked Mr. Pelosi. Police say the suspect demanded to see the US House of Representatives Speaker and have arrested a 42-year-old man.
The motive for this attack is still being determined. Mr. DePepe will be booked at the San Francisco County Jail on the following charges: attempted homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, burglary, and several other additional felonies.
Paul Pelosi was left with a fractured skull and serious injuries to his right arm and hands. Mrs. Pelosi was in Washington, D.C. at the time and has flown back to be with her husband. She is one of the most powerful politicians in the country, re-elected to a 4th term as Speaker last year. President Joe Biden says the attack was politically motivated. Members of Congress have been on high alert since the January 6 riots last year. Brazil's incumbent president and his left-wing challenger have faced off in their final televised debate ahead of tomorrow's runoff vote. The deeply polarising figures attacked each other's character and record, with Jair Bolsonaro taking swing by questioning the country's future under Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. You declare yourself as being the father of the poor, but in 2020, to support the poor when they were obliged to stay at home, we gave emergency aid of 600 reais. What is left for the youth in Brazil? Seeing you disputing an election? Lula was quick to hit back, blasting Bolsonaro's handling of a pandemic and promising a safer Brazil. The only thing you did was deny the vaccine at the right moment and allow more than 300,000 people to die needlessly in this country. But one day you will pay for that. Lula adds, if elected, we will collect thousands of guns in my government and we will set them on fire in a public square. Polls suggest Lula is a slight favourite to come back for a third term, capping a remarkable political return after his jailing on corruption convictions were overturned. But Bolsonaro outperformed opinion polls in the first round vote this month, so many analysts say it could go either way.
Elon Musk arrived on his first day at the Twitter HQ carrying a sink. The Tesla chief bought the social media giant for $44 billion, a deal he admits is overpriced. Let that sink in, he quipped, hence the sink. He also announced on Twitter, where else, that he'll convene a content moderation council, despite his earlier pledge to let the bird fly. That prompted the European Commission to tweet, saying that if the bird is to fly in Europe, it'll be by European rules. It's a familiar pattern. Where there's Elon Musk, there's controversy.
There have been some problems in Twitter and, we all know about it. So I'm just hoping that, he brings the changes and makes it all about free speech.
If he doesn't allow the control of the conversations to limit hate speech, things like that, then I think it could be worse for people and create more of an antagonistic political environment. So that's what I'm worried about.
Musk's intention was to make it about free speech and release banned users from what he called the Twitter jail, meaning the likes of Donald Trump. But the announcement of a content moderation council already to many looks like backpedaling.
Time abides, and yet for member EU states it remains a bone of contention. This weekend the clocks go backwards across the continent as part of annual daylight saving measures. But the European Commission in 2018 proposed the abolition of the time changes after 4.6 million European citizens voiced scrapping the practice. Despite being rubber-stamped by MEPs in 2019, the proposal has stood still, with no change. There are currently 3 time zones in Europe, with the vast majority of countries using Central European Time as their standard. But there are arbitrary factors which have set these zones. Time should be based on meridians of longitude. For instance, the northwestern tip of Spain should share a time zone with Portugal, but that remains in line with the rest of the country. So what was proposed to change? The initiative back in 2018 proposed splitting European countries into 4 zones based on current winter time. The UK, France, Spain and the Benelux countries would be under the same Western European time zone. One problematic issue would be for the island of Ireland, where the time zones of Northern Ireland and the Republic would be split into 2. So far, the proposal has made no tracks and needs to be put on the agenda by the rotating presidency of the European Council. On the 1st of January, Sweden will take up the role. Will they adopt the proposal? Only time will tell.
Fela Kuti, the Nigerian singer and saxophonist who died in 1997, is being honoured at the Philharmonie de Paris. He left his mark on the history of music by creating a new musical movement at the end of the 1960s, Afrobeat, which combined jazz and Yoruba music. The exhibition traces the musical and political career of Fela Kuti, nicknamed the Black President. There are many photos and videos to see, especially of the thousands of concerts he gave in Nigeria and around the world. Following the mashed potato incident on the 23rd of October at the Museum Barberini, in which Claude Monet's painting Grain Stacks was splattered, the Potsdam's Museum in Germany reopens to the public this Sunday for an exhibition devoted to the links between magic and surrealism. The renewed interest in surrealism is explained by the ubiquity of the supernatural, the strange and the fantastic in contemporary culture. On the 18th of October, the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao celebrated its 25th anniversary. The museum was designed by one of the greatest contemporary architects, Frank Gehry. Its opening in 1997 revitalised a city and a region, giving the Basque Country a museum of international dimension, where visitors flock from all over the world. For this event, 3 exhibitions are devoted to the museum's collections, rich in thousands of treasures, to be discovered until January 2023.